Welcome, Graeme. Thank you so much for coming. And we're going to have a chat, aren't we, about your brain injury and how it affects you and various other conditions possibly. So if we just start, would you like to just tell us about your brain injury? Because there's a story there. Tell us a little bit about the sort of the chronology of and the timescale of.
Yeah, that was in 2012, and over a period of time, it got worse, and I then had a couple of operations, because part of it was on the left side of my brain, and they had an embolisation 2 or 3 times, because they didn't necessarily fix them, or didn't work properly. And then I had a craniotomy, and it's not linked to that, it's more linked to the brain injury, and it's got worse over time. I've lost half my vision from both eyes, and there are parts of what I know and can remember in the past that are just gone.
So take it back to your brain injury. So what's the cause of the brain injury?
I was attacked quite nearby to my house. I don't know how long I was out for, but for some reason I got really agitated, knocked on the front door and said, I just need to get, I don't know, a hammer or something, so I could go after these guys. I have no idea where they went and all that, but I was just agitated. And my wife called the paramedics, and they said, just make him sit down because he's going to fall. And apparently that's what happened.
So do you know what actually happened when they attacked you? Did they hit you? Did they push you?
I know.
Do you know what?
I can remember little bits of it. I know I was hit on the back of my head, and I think there were 2 guys. They took some of my cards, credit cards and things like that, but very little after that. And I've tried to remember that, but it's gone.
It's gone. So the paramedics came.
Yep.
And then what happened after that?
Good question.
So do you remember?
You're asking the wrong person there.
Oh, I know, but I'm interested in what you can remember, because that's interesting. So do you know what happened? You've been told, so you can't remember what happened after that. Do you remember? You don't remember going home being agitated. You vaguely remember the attack.
I remember the attack.
Yeah.
To an extent.
Yeah.
And because it was, pretty much 3 houses away from where we lived, even though I had my keys, I didn't know how to, open the door and stuff. So I just banged on the door, and my wife opened and she said something's wrong.
And so after that, so did the paramedics take you away?
Yes.
Yeah. So you went to hospital?
Yeah. Can't remember which one.
Yeah. And so you don't remember any of that, and you don't remember being in hospital. How long?
Then I think they just discharged me, because they just thought, I was odd. And it was only after I went to the hospital at Queen Square, because they knew something was wrong. So I was put in touch with them. That's when they did the craniotomy and stuff. And my recall has just got worse over time. My visions got worse, and they said this is what's going to happen. I got epilepsy as a result of that as well, and that was, it's getting used to it was the most difficult part.
getting used to the epilepsy or getting used to
Both.
things being a bit different?
Forgetting things,
Mm-hmm.
and just simple things like getting from our house home to train station to the tube, and how to go from X to Y, and if there's two tube lines, so Piccadilly and Victorian, which one should I get to? So sometimes I have to ask for family or local people, where am I going? Because sometimes you just get lost.
So if we go back to the time,
Mm.
so the time of the injury, do you know how long there was between the attack and the craniotomy? What was the time scale between the two?
Good question. It's probably 5 or 6 years, because it just got worse. So that's one of the
So
reasons why.
what is it that got worse in that time?
Recall.
So your memory,
and
so remembering
headaches.
things.
Some of the worst headaches I've had ever, and a couple of simple things, and that's when they said, right, we need to have a look at what's happening in your brain, and then they realised that that side of my brain wasn't really working properly. So there were parts of the blood vessels that just weren't really attuned to each other, and that's.
So do you know what they did while you had the craniotomy?
I was there for a month, and they did it to. I mean, a lot of people with brain injury have a plate on their head. I don't, because this is, my neurologist said, this is my blowhole. So when it gets too full, it pumps out, and otherwise it goes in too much. So they keep adjusting that.
So you've got a piece of skull that's missing.
Yes. Yeah.
And they've left it and they haven't replaced it.
Yep.
And so that's seen as sort of easing. It allows for a little bit of inflammation.
Yes. Yeah.
So it means that if the brain needs a bit more space, rather than putting your brain under pressure, it's got a little bit of space. Is
Yes.
that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like a valve.
Like a
if you
valve.
like. Yeah. And that's one of the frustrations, is if I fall on the left side, that could be,
It could have some unpleasant consequences.
Yeah.
So you have to be
could be
very
lights out.
careful.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've got to be very careful from that point of view. So just going back again to your time in hospital, so they went in and they fixed, so the surgeon went in and fixed that area of the brain.
They weren't able to, because my brain got swollen during the surgery, and that was, there's nothing more they could do on that. They can't do any other access to that part of the brain, and as much as they have done, but that's it. You've just got to live with it.
Yeah. So it's like that now, and you've got sort of that's how it's going to be now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you went in and you had the craniotomy, were you awake when you had the craniotomy?
Yeah.
No. Okay. And so, do you remember being in hospital? You haven't lost any memories from that period?
It's dates, times, can't remember that.
Yeah.
But I think it might have been November. And
And you remember
I was
being
there for a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said it's been continually getting worse. Has it continued to get worse since you were in hospital, since the craniotomy?
Because of the brain injury, it has got worse over the years.
Yeah.
And some of my speech is a bit erect. No, not there.
Yeah.
And then a large part of, like I said, memory. You know, when did I come from? You know, from this house to this. When did I move from this house to that house? I can't remember.
So let's talk a little bit more about memory, then we'll come back to language.
Sure,
Yeah. And just to to sort of see the details of your memory. So, how much do you remember from before the attack? So before you got the brain injury? Would you say your memory, you've got those memories still, or have you forgotten bits of that?
Not much. You know, I can't remember what the score was, or I'm an Arsenal fan, so I can't remember players' names. I can't remember what year we, won the league, or even if we did. It's just, these are the bits that everyone remembers where they were on certain days. But
And
those
that's
bits
gone.
are gone.
So that's from before the injury.
Yeah.
Do you remember life events from before the injury? So you said you don't remember when you moved from one house to another. Do you remember previous houses?
Yes and no, but I don't know the year I was there. or
Can
how
you
many
see
years.
those houses? Can you visualise them?
I
Do you have
can.
memories of them?
Yeah, from a visual perspective, yes.
Yeah.
But then sometimes we go past somewhere and, we've been there before, to this restaurant or whatever. I can't remember, but it looks familiar. I don't know if I have been there or not.
But there's a sense of familiarity. So you might
To an
see
extent,
somewhere
yeah.
and you think, oh, that seems familiar, but
Yeah.
you can't get the actual detail of
Yes.
when you were there or who you were
Yeah.
with or why you were there.
So
But you
simple
think,
things.
oh, I do know this place.
Yeah, it's simple things like getting people round for a barbecue or something like that. And if I think they haven't met each other, I'll say just introduce each other, to themselves, and because I can't necessarily retain people's names. I know some close friends, but yeah, it's if I can see someone, great, but I can't remember their name.
But you remember, once you see them, you remember when you last saw them? Do you remember what your connection is with them?
Yes, yeah.
So that will come back from seeing
Yeah,
them, but
that
not
will.
necessarily but the name won't, but that will come back.
Yeah.
Okay. So thinking back to, going back to memory again, and what you remember, what's your memory like of events since the brain injury? Is it
Before I knew everything, in terms of memory, but since the brain injury, I can't remember much.
So you've had life events, things have happened,
Yeah.
you've been to places since the injury, but then you don't remember those. So you're not laying down those new memories, as it were. You struggle to lay down those new
I
memories.
can remember some of the last week or two or last month, but over time that will, diminish.
So it sort of just dissipates over time.
Yeah.
So you remember sort of last couple of weeks, and then
Yeah.
it goes. What about learning to do things? Are you able to learn to do new skills? Have you learned any new skills or?
I like cooking,
Yeah.
so I'm quite good at that. but sometimes I will get the wrong ingredients and things like that. So, some of my, cooking skills are, not as good, but hey,
So, well, cooking's a great example because obviously it's quite complicated.
Yeah.
Cognitively, it's quite complicated, isn't
Yes,
it, cooking? So let's, if you don't mind, we'll have a little think about that. So when you cook, are you cooking from memory, or are you following instructions, or a YouTube video, or are you reading a
Now,
recipe?
the most familiar ones that are still, stuck in my head, like a roast or something like that.
And so that's stuck in your head from before the injury?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I might get some of the ingredients wrong in that, like veg or whatever the case may be. If it was something new, that would be very difficult. If, just trying to think of Faiti, and I keep having to look at the ingredients and which ones do I put in first and second and all of that, because those are the bits I hope they'll,
So do you know
get
when
stuck
you
in
so
there.
when you read about the ingredients? So I'm just thinking about sort of your knowledge, because it's all memory linked. So if you're reading instructions and it says, for instance, I don't know, a red pepper, or a red onion, or garlic.
Yeah.
You read those and you know what they are. You haven't forgotten what things are, or
I know
which
what
veg is
things
what,
are.
and you're able to see it and recognise it and go to one.
Yes, but I might add something random in there.
Might be the magic twist of that recipe
It could
you
be,
did all
yeah.
along. Maybe
Yeah.
it's a great creative. So you're still able to read,
Yeah.
and we'll come back to that in a second. But you know what the ingredients are, and you know what the tasks are, and you're able to follow the sequence of the recipe.
Yes.
So which
But
is
I always have to refer back to the ingredients, and the instructions.
But you remember how to do the different tasks, like we understand chopping, or using everything. So that's all still there.
I don't do a lot of shopping because I will put the wrong things in.
So is that wrong
basket.
because you've misremembered, or is that wrong because you've misrecognised, or because you get distracted?
I'm not sure. I just put random things in, which
Oh, that looks nice. I'll admit that.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know why, but I do put some random things into the basket, and it's when you get home, and even at the checkout, my wife will turn around and say, "Why have you got that?" And I don't know, I can't remember.
I have that problem, and that's usually because one of my children has put something in,
Yes, that happens.
sneaking it through.
Yes.
So we've thought a bit about doing things. About how are you any good at remembering to do things in the future? So if I said to you, "Oh, tomorrow, remember to call your your friend," would you remember to do that?
I have to put things into my calendar on my phone.
So your calendar is your Bible. That's what you follow. So you'd remember to put it in when you've planned it.
Yeah.
And otherwise you wouldn't remember tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay. So those are sort of different types of memory that we use. How's your concentration? Can you stay on task?
No.
What happens?
You forget what to do. If I'm, doing the dishes or something like that, I'll forget, and because something else pops into my head, and so I get, I do that task, and then I come back and I go, have I done that? No, why haven't I done the dishes fully?
And you forget about the dishes then?
Yeah. So, little things like that. You can't quite remember everything. You might do half of it, but then you get distracted, if that's the right word, and do something else.
So can you listen to a radio program or a podcast, or can you watch a series, read a book? How are you able to follow?
I can't read
Mhm.
anymore. I do like radio, and films, on the iPad and things like that.
And so you can follow. So you can follow that.
I might have to recap, half of a film because I can't quite remember what it was about, kind of thing. What an example would be if I was watching Question Time.
Mhm.
I think it's on Thursdays, but I don't know where it was. Was it in Leeds or Scotland or and what were the topics that there were? That's gone. In the moment, I enjoy it, but later
After it's gone.
it's gone.
So can you watch? So if we think of a TV series, for instance, one traditional one where you've got an episode a day or an episode a week.
Yeah.
Would you be able to watch an episode tonight if the last episode was a week ago? Would you remember? Would you be able to get back into the story?
I suppose half of that, because if it's something I'm really engaged with, then yes.
Yes, you can do it.
But like I said, I might have to recap a bit.
Yeah.
Silent Witness, for example. I don't know what it was about last time. I know there's 3 episodes, and
But not
at
the
the
detail.
time. But
the detail's gone.
Detail is
So you said you struggle with reading.
Yep.
So what is it about reading that you can't do anymore?
Part of it is because I've lost half my vision, but if it's small words, I can read that. If it's a longer, set of words or word, I can't really.
So you can see them, but you're not able to read them in your head, or you can. Or is it holding
It's
on?
just
Or is
not
it
that.
holding on to longer? So you've got a sentence.
If it's a long word,
Yeah.
I've got to try and break it down to understand what it is. So, is it A, B, something, whatever. So what's the first 3 letters? Okay, what's the next 3? Okay, does that make sense? Okay, now the third, group came in, and so now I've got to work out, okay, what is that word?
So could you read it out aloud and not understand it, or can you not read it out aloud? You have to do that just to be able to read it out aloud.
Yeah.
So you can't even read it out aloud. And once you've read it out aloud,
Yeah.
and you've heard yourself read it, are you then able to work out what it says?
Yes. But like I said, I have to break it down.
Yeah.
Any long words. Just doesn't make sense.
So let's think about language
Yeah.
a little bit more. So you've got a language disorder or deficit, would you say? Have you got problems with your language?
Yes. When I speak, it's very difficult to get the words out. Speech is one of the things, and then you go off tangent, crazy. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. It's brain injury, but it's. Yeah, what was the question? Sorry.
The question is your language.
Yeah.
So what's different about your language, and what difficulties do you have with your language? So you struggle to say the words. Can you think the word? Are you thinking the word in your head? Can you hear it in your head, but then you can't say it, or do you struggle to think it in your head
It's
first?
like having a dictionary. All the words are in there, in what order, and then how to verbalise it. So that takes a lot more processing and time.
So do you know what do you have the thought, you know what you're trying to say, but you can't put the words into it? Is that a fair description?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
for
so
instance,
I've all got it there. I can see it in my head.
you can see it. So what can you see it as an object? As a what does the experience of knowing what you want to say? So if I said, what would you like for lunch, for instance?
Yep.
What comes into your mind? Do you see food? Do you see the words jumbled up? What do you experience?
I can, like you've just mentioned about, what do we want for lunch? So I know those words. Now I've got to find right words on, do I get a sandwich? Do I want something else? And then it starts, getting difficult.
So do you see the sandwich, or do you hear the word sandwich? Do you see it first? Do you have an image of a sandwich?
I can see the
So
image.
if I said to you, would you like a sandwich or a burger, you can picture both of those.
Yes,
if I ask,
yeah.
so you can see them.
Yeah.
But then you then have to search for the words afterwards. What are you like?
And if there's more things that I can, options, that's worse, because it's overuse of my brain. Give me two things. I'm fine with that.
So what happens if I give you 4? Is it that you have to think about one at a time, and it's too many, and then you forget the last
Too many
one?
things, I'll get agitated if that happens.
Okay.
2 things, or maybe 3 different things. So tuna, sandwich, or burger, and
then you start losing it. It's too much information to hold
so
at once.
if I try and get that 3rd thing,
It's gone.
then one of the others is gone. And that's where you get frustrated.
Frustration, yes.
Yeah.
Very frustrating, I can see that. Are you okay understanding people talking to you?
Yes.
So you don't get confused, or you don't get muddled when people are talking to you, it's like it was, you can follow, and you can follow a conversation.
I can follow to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a simple conversation. If you're giving me so much information, that's when it's very difficult to continue.
Is it a bit like a desk and things are just falling off the edge? You can only hold so much information, and then it's...
And then some of it falls off.
Some of it has to fall off.
Yeah.
So you can understand, you can read to a degree, but again, there's a lot of it's about how much information you can hold at once, isn't it? That's always sort of the difficulty. How are you with maths? Arithmetic? That good?
I did good A-level maths, but I can't. Even if you're saying, the year 2024, I've got to break that down, and then so 2025, so 2025.
Yeah.
And is that the right word to use? 2025.
So there's a lot of checking going on all the time, of double checking. How are you with money? I mean, real money, not tapping, but actual money. You're able to count it, to recognise it, because that's actually very difficult, isn't it? Handling money.
Yeah, the colours
are
fine, but it's, if someone says, "Oh, that's £16.24p," so one of those 2 tens, and they give me changes, or I use a 10 and a 5 and a 1, and then I've got to get the coins out. So that will take a little bit more time because numbers are not as good as they were before.
But you can recognise the money and you're able to actually count up the money. So I mean that's actually really good, isn't it? Okay. So if we move on to thinking about, so it sort of links a little bit because we've talked about being able to see writing, and we know obviously you've lost a lot of your eyesight, but thinking about results of the brain injury in terms of perception, so how you feel the world, taste, eyesight, hearing, smell, touch, temperature, how has any of that changed?
Taste. I can't really taste stuff. I use a lot of hot sauce and things like that, so I can actually taste it a bit better.
So you use the hot sauce on purpose in order to be able to have some flavour?
Yes, yeah.
And what were you like with hot sauces before the injury?
I was fine with that.
Yeah.
Didn't have as much as I have now. And yeah, so that's one of the things that I've noticed.
Other sort of, so smell, touch,
Smells, I get
temperature.
I feel some things smell rancid, rotten.
So you can smell extremes.
But other people say
or
there's
just
nothing
yucky.
wrong with it. It's
Oh,
fine.
right, okay.
And I don't know why.
So you get
smell
strange
it. Yeah.
strange smells.
Yes.
So things don't smell the same as they seem to for other people.
Yeah.
But nice smells.
To a small degree.
Yeah. So you notice them, but it's not quite as much as it was before. Anything else notable to do with the way that you interact with the world? So what you feel or you smell? They're the ones. Yeah. Okay. And so what about your mobility? And I want to think about sort of your mobility in terms of what you can do, you can't do.
It's very difficult to go up because one of my legs doesn't really work properly, and that's linked to the brain injury, and so it's very difficult to go out, and things like going shopping and I haven't done that for.
That's because you put the wrong things in the trolley.
Yes, that's also true. But it's an overload of noises and colours and things like that, and that's where it's really difficult to go to a large shop and do all that. I think my wife has given me some ingredients that I need to get, and she follows me around, so I can go, okay, so is that but obviously is that in this aisle or is that in this aisle? So you start zigzag quite a lot.
But so we've talked about navigation a little bit, and I know you get out and about quite a lot, don't you? Or you try to on your own.
Yeah.
But it's interesting what you're saying about sort of the shops and the supermarket. Do you remember are you able to navigate round the supermarket? Do you know where things are within the supermarket?
From
Do you
what
remember?
I can see.
From what you can see. So you don't remember, you don't go on sort of knowledge of the layout of the supermarket. You haven't got that information. So you don't sort of have in your mind the map of the supermarket, thinking, oh, I need to get biscuits, so I need to go to that part of the shop. You have to guide based on what you can see, so it's in the moment. How do you cope with the tube, for instance? Because I know you use public transport, don't you?
Yeah, when I go for my checkups for the hospital, a couple of times I've called one of the nurses as I'm, came off at King's Cross, and I've got lost. So they've showed me what street to go to. There's a couple of apps that I use now that you can. It tells you take a left, that kind of thing. So that helps massively. Some things, the more familiar you become with them, then you know how to get from X to Y. If it's somewhere that I haven't been to previously, that's a challenge for me. Either I tend to go somewhere a lot earlier because I might get lost.
That's fantastic that you are doing it and you are getting out of it.
Yeah.
So it's great. So we've talked a little bit about frustration, and lots of people after brain injury find that their mood change or your mood regulation, your ability to cope with situations change. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that? So I know you said about the frustration, but what about your moods? Are you calmer, less calm?
Less calm.
Less calm.
Less calm. Yeah. It's the more information that it's like if you're if you're driving with me and there's a lot of background noise, I can't focus on that. It's too much. So those kind of things, going somewhere familiar, fine. Something other stuff, I can't really.
So so you get frustrated.
You get
Do you then get
frustrated.
cross? What happens when you get frustrated?
You get
overwhelmed?
agitated, and then you get angry at yourself, and that's when your mood changes. And then that could, in me, it leads to depression as well. After that.
And what about, so it's sort of indirectly related, but what about tiredness and fatigue? Do you have any of that?
I do. I tend to need to have a sleep of, after 2.5 hours of doing something, I need to go and have a lie down. Sometimes I sleep, sometimes I just lie down. My sleep is odd. I will have quite a few sleeps during a day. I can't go to sleep just like normal people do, at 11 p.m. I will try, but I'll wake up 2.5 hours later. And then you're wide awake, nothing to do, so, listen to, radio or, watch, series or something. And then you get tired. And that fatigue is probably one of the worst things, because the more busy I'm doing something, the worse that is. It's because I do need to bank. I call it banking sleep.
So is your tiredness like my tiredness? Do they compare? Or are they different? Or is your tiredness like your tiredness you had before the brain injury? How does it? Does it feel different?
It was normal, and post the brain injury, it's completely shot. It's I get sleep, like I said, 2.5 hours, and I'm wide awake for.
Do you feel rested after the sleep? do you feel more cognitively alert? Do you feel, less brain fog? Or is it?
It takes time for, when you wake up, you go, okay, what am I, doing? There's some apps that I use, with aphasia and things like that. And I try and read, these, pieces of it, of a letter, for example. And it takes so much out of you, so that, if I can't do more than, let's say, half an hour of that. So I do split.
So the fatigue is just draining.
Yeah.
It's just like everything's just shut down. So like a car running out of fuel, it just stops. Yeah. There's nothing left, and you just have to recharge again. Yeah. I think we've covered most of the things that we wanted to talk about. Just wanted to talk a little bit about the epilepsy, which is one of the consequences, isn't it, since the brain injury. And so when does that happen? How under control is it? Does that happen regularly?
I'm medicated for that, which is great. But there will be, I'll get probably absent seizures. I don't know how long they last. It could be, 5 minutes, might be 10 minutes, don't know. And when you come around, you go, what was I doing, kind of thing. I've had some really bad seizures, and to an extent where I've had to be put into, I wouldn't say a coma. I've called the paramedics, and I was just not responding. So I know I've been into hospital, for a couple of days or a week. Which hospital did I go to? No.
You can't remember that.
Can't remember much,
Yeah.
So you get these, I suppose, cluster seizures. So one rolls on to another. And then, as I said, you get these absent ones, and there's another type of seizure, which I just need to go and sleep, and make sure I'm in a safe place, and that way I will wake up at some point. But so I think there's 3 or 4 different types of seizures.
Right. Just thinking about sort of the diagnoses that you know. So you've got aphasia.
Yep.
What else? So we know
Apraxia.
Apraxia.
And ataxia.
And ataxia.
I think that's the right word.
Yeah.
So numbers, recall, and obviously aphasia as well. So that's numbers, words, all that kind of stuff. And so I've got those. Obviously I've got epilepsy and probably other conditions.
But those are the main ones that really affect you. So is there anything else that you think that people need to know about your brain, what it's like having a brain injury, your experience of a brain injury that we haven't talked about? Bearing in mind how much you can remember.
Yeah, so I'd say the main thing is, for others, to be patient with people with a brain injury.
What about if they don't know you've got a brain injury, like when you're in the tube, for instance, and you look like a normal...
I do look like a normal person.
Normal person, a healthy person.
We all are. It's very agitated if, things are, not in the right order. It's simple things like, where do I put my keys, my wallet, things like that. I leave them in a specific place, because I can remember them, because I can see them. If
That's
you
really
say,
important.
if you say, move things around, that's an overload. I just be patient with people, and find out more about it.
And not assume
Yeah.
that, if someone's struggling, but actually maybe there's a genuine reason, if you don't know what's going on, that it's important to realise that. So we've had, we did a focus group with people with brain injury, and they gave us some questions. We asked them, so a lot of our questions are questions that they've said that we should ask. And one thing I wanted to ask you is, how has the brain injury affected your family?
Massively, I'd say. Because it makes me very emotional, and frustrated with myself, so to speak. But the effect on family, they've learnt a lot on this over the years, and I couldn't do whatever I'm doing without my family. But they've learned so much about it. They probably know more than I do, and I'm what's the word?
Grateful?
Yeah,
That
grateful.
one. Yeah.
Of friends and family. They understand. That's the main thing.
So their
they can
support's
be
being
patient.
crucial. It's crucial to
yeah,
you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, very much so.
The other question that we've had, which we're asking everyone, is: has anything positive come out of the situation?
Talking to other people who've got, brain injury or aphasia and things like that, talking to parents, etc., or partners of people who have had a brain injury, just talking to them, and just educating them. I am still a normal person. Some days I won't feel that way, but I do like talking to students. I like talking to some of the charities, talking to people who've got the same, condition, because you're in kind of a safe place there. We don't talk about a brain injury. We talk about, football or whatever the case may be, because it's nice to get out of, just talking about brain injury. But I do like speaking. I probably overtalk, but yeah, hope that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Another question we were asked to ask is: has your personality changed? Do you feel like you're still the same person as before the injury, or do you think you are a different person? And has that taken some getting used to?
Yeah, I've got a big black dog, of, depression. And sometimes it's, huge. Sometimes I can control it, and it's, otherwise, sometimes it's like a little puppy.
And so that wasn't there before the brain injury?
Wasn't there before.
What sort of person were you before the brain injury?
Patient. I was, the what's the words? The life of the the life of the party kind of thing. I was more pro, Toilets, no. I could do a lot more on,
Proactive?
yes, and also to just do things out of the moment. Yeah.
Spontaneous.
Yes, yeah.
Whereas now it takes more planning.
I need the planning.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if I can't put it in my calendar,
It doesn't exist.
it doesn't exist. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've got to have everything in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing and being so candid and, you know, telling us all about what life is. Is there anything else that we haven't covered?
You're gonna have to think that.
Or think about it. Well, we can revisit
Yeah,
it. But
no,
I think we've covered a lot of things.
Yeah, I think we have. I think I suppose one of the most important things is talking about brain injuries and talking about the conditions like aphasia, etc. Because I don't think so many people understand that. For example, the football commentator and Chris Kamara, and recently, what's his name?
Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis. He's got aphasia. So I don't know if it's all because of football, etc. It could be I don't know how many movies he's been, things like that, and maybe he's got a bang on the head or something, or it could be just another condition that could just happen. So the more we can talk about it and educate people, that's important, because it's such a hidden disability, so to speak.
I agree. Do people get impatient with you? If
Yes.
you're in shops or in the station, you're asking for help, do people get impatient?
Yeah, because I'm slightly slower at speaking, etc., finding things, etc. They get frustrated, but over the years, it's their problem, not mine.
Well, I think that's a wonderful place to leave it. Thank you so much, Graeme. It's
Not a
been
problem.
wonderful. I think
Thank
we're
you.
done.